Hello viewers and welcome to another episode from the Magnus protocol. This one is episode number 34, Eliminations. This one, of course, because it's going to be full of very many catastrophic and beautiful and wonderful and also terrible things. It's written by Jonathan Sims, edited by Alex.
By that Alex feller.
It starts out where we left off a while ago with a tape recorder clicking on, which is spooky.
Spooky stuff going on as always, those damn tape recorders.
They're always there. And Sam is waking up with Archives Georgie?
Yeah. Archives Georgie. She's sitting nearby, writing in a notebook.
Okay, that's what
and
it means.
yeah, Sam just wakes up panicked.
Yeah. Basically, he's hooked into an IV and everything. He was very malnutritioned and dehydrated, and she thinks that it's his turn to convince her to keep using those resources. So, right away we get there's limited resources wherever they are. Medicine, probably important.
Probably important.
He's been out for a few days, according to Georgie. There's no specific number.
She also, she keeps calling him, Sam, in a very distrusting, okay, Sam, if that's what you really are, if that's your human name.
Georgie's worried about what Sam is. And she's worried about this because apparently no one except her and her team are allowed in the London exclusion zone. And she said that they have been checking for breaches along the border. There are none. And there's no evidence to suggest that there has been. And then she says something very interesting. She says, so as far as we can tell, you came from the square mile, and humans don't come from the square mile.
Something we'll bring up later.
Yes, and the square mile has capital letters every once in a while, which means it's probably important.
Probably something.
And we don't immediately get to know what it is.
Hopefully we do, because there are some theories. I have thoughts. I have thoughts. They're not great thoughts, but they're thoughts.
And then she asks Sam to recount what he saw. He says that he remembers he was in the basement. Georgie cuts him off, asking what his deal is. She's very much
not trusting of Sam whatsoever.
She mentions a few different objects. At one point she accuses him of being a hunger thing, and she accuses him of then making her realize the hunger in her soul and turn the whole building into cannibals. Sam denies this very heavily. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Not really sure what you're talking about. I've just had these weird dreams, maybe, of some portal tear in a basement. My girlfriend, not so much anymore, probably Celia. He doesn't say that, but again, that rat bastard Celia. And also seeing Georgie, but again, we probably don't know if this is Protocol or Archives Georgie. He hasn't. Which Georgie is it? He hasn't met Protocol Georgie, which was something people were discussing actually. He hasn't actually met her, so we wouldn't know.
Georgie then asks him, what's your messed up little power?
What is your messed up little power?
And Sam's kind of starting to connect things, and he's like, where I'm from, we call them externals.
And then she's like, who the hell's we?
Yes. Sam says the Office of Incident Assessment and Response, and that it's a branch of the UK Civil Service. And then Georgie's like, government's just one big incident response for a few years. Yeah,
there's we're all kind of in that civil service thing right now.
Yeah. Sam freaks out, asks what year it is. Georgie says 2024. He connects again, and he's like, this must be an alternate dimension. Yeah. To which Georgie is surprised. And
it would have been so much easier if you were just some creature or monster we could just get rid of.
Destroy.
Yeah, some creature we just, throw out back. But,
he talks about the tear in his world under the Hilltop Shopping Center, and...
This is when she's
Yeah.
Hilltop in Oxford, perchance, and she offers her hand,
she
I'm
finally
Georgie.
Introduces herself. Georgie says that the world was normal until 5 years ago, saying that it transformed in a psycho-formed fear farm for otherworldly entities outside of human understanding. She says it doesn't last that long, though time wasn't very linear, and they had spent the years since trying to rebuild something approaching normal, but a few places never fully changed back.
London, one of those, as it being
obviously
the heart of the incident. She also describes it as a sort of lingering fear radiation in these various locations. Sorry?
Advanced biology flashbacks. Adaptive radiation, my worst enemy.
They're technically a part of a wider civil defense militia that she calls it. Basically, and other people call them wardens, trying to keep
really cool
the monsters out and people safe within. And people out of these various areas as well.
Yeah, because apparently people try to enter
People trying to
later.
I mean, yeah. People trying to enter. Sam asking why people would want to enter. Georgie about to say something, but then is cut off by the goated man himself, Warden Dave.
Jack's notes say in capital letters, the goat. Warden Dave. They found Heidi, basically.
Yeah.
And we get another tape recorder.
Cutting into the middle of a conversation inside of Georgie's office.
Yeah. Captain Georgie's office.
Captain Georgie's office.
Heidi was found clutching a tape recorder, and bits of lens glass were sticking out of her with no other debris. She was shriveled as if she had been sucked dry.
Yep.
Hungry tape recorders.
Hungry tape recorders. Georgie asking Dave if she ever told him, like, what her domain was.
Which is interesting.
Interesting.
As Jack's notes say, IMO dope as fuck.
In my opinion, dope as fuck. Referring to the fact that, she asks, if Heidi ever told Dave about, the domain. And Dave's like, no. Did you know? And Georgie's like, yes, it is a standard psyche val question for the newer recruits, which is so cool.
Yes. Okay. Dave asks what they're dealing with. Georgie says she has no idea, but hopes she is wrong, and to double up on rounds and notify other branches. And then stay clear of any tape recorders, which is very important.
And if anyone starts to get all poetic and tell a really personal, really traumatic story for no obvious reason, to grab them and run.
Yeah. Fun.
Fun.
And then tape recorder is turned on.
Dave finally clocks that, like, oh, that tape recorder right there, that's turned on, and is like, so, boss, what do we do if it's just recording? And Georgie just kind of, like, looks over and is like, hand me that claw hammer. Bang, bang, bang!
And the poor little tape recorder screams.
Yeah, poor little.
Very sad.
You can call it poor all you want. I say, trauma-inducing fear device.
It just
die.
wants to know. I mean,
it just wants to know.
Think about it. It's like a little bug that loves you and wants to know your stories.
Bonk.
It screams when you kill it.
Apparently.
Okay. And then Sam and Georgie are back. Georgie has the tape recorder, throws it at Sam.
Throws the, like, broken, bashed up tape recorder. He's like, what is this? And he's like, junk.
Yeah. And he's like, someone did a number on this.
Yeah. And then Georgie is like, okay, tell me what it was then. And he's like, well, magnetic tape. And he's like, okay. And he's like, yeah, this is a tape recorder. Me and my friends at the OIAR, i.e. Alice and Gwen.
He lists them off, too.
Yeah, he's like, Alice, Gwen, my friends at the OIAR.
Yeah. Georgie asks for Sam to tell her everything. Sam tells her that he was researching the Magnus Institute. Georgie recognizes it.
Oh, shit.
He asks if their world also has one. She's like, yeah, we used to. But basically, she says that Sam's world is very lucky to have their Magnus Institute burned down in the 90s. To which Jack's notes say, Georgie says, lucky you, John Sims, you hack.
We are being hunted by this, like, creature thing that Alice calls the Archivist. And Gwen, gets all serious and is like, all right, tell me what his name is, tell me what he looks like and what his name is. Sam basically being like, I don't know if it's a he, but, it's got a cloak, it's got eyes.
Yeah.
More where their eyes should be. And Georgie is like, okay, well then, if this is who I think it is, then there's nothing left to rebuild.
If the Archivist got back into their world, they mean. And then we get to hear the lovely story of an elderly lady talking about her strawberries and how they grow in the sunlight.
Lots of sunlight.
So she's by her strawberries, she's tending to the soil and speaking to it, and then she reflects on her struggles of gardening, admitting she's never had much success.
But she does still keep at it. She keeps trying. She then starts to monologue.
There's a definite shift.
Yeah.
And guess who's there? It's the Archivist.
Yeah, the
Archivist is there.
Yeah.
She's talking about time passing.
Time passing, its presence, and what actually terrified her. And that it wasn't the end of the world, wasn't the darkness, wasn't even the cave. It was being trapped in a certain moment, forever and ever, and very dreadful. Recalls the story of a certain scientist. who lost track of time in isolation, and then her own moment of endless horror. The night she accidentally killed a man at a pub, and they had some stupid argument, and his head bashed into a table and died.
And she ran.
And she ran.
I think it's really interesting when she talks about this story, because it's a story about a scientist who went into a cave to see how the darkness would affect him. He didn't bring any clocks or anything. Mm-hmm. He was in there for 4 months, which usually...
And then... No, I know. Yeah. I think he was in there for 2 months, but in actuality it was 4.
He thought he was in there for 2 months, which I thought was interesting, because usually when you hear about studies like that, it's the opposite way around, where people will think...
They think they're in there longer.
Yeah. Anyways, he was in there for 4 months, and it was a creepy cave. Mm-hmm. And then she talks about the cave, that others were there, but no one really talked with each other. You could kind of see people shifting, but not really. And in the center was a single rusty knife that everyone could see.
And, no one spoke. They all knew why they were there. And they all knew each other were killers. By accident, or actually, by accident. They all knew they were killers of some sort. With, as she begins talking, she says how, she was the one to pick up the knife, and the archivist, the archivist in her little strawberry patch, gives her a rusty knife. As she talks about holding the rusty knife, talking about how it felt cold and weightless in her hand, and she begins to stab into herself. And the archivist, again, in her strawberry bush, is like, yes, fear, more.
He's just a hungry little guy.
Hungry little guy. As she, again, is talking how she stabs herself and pulls out rib and heart and slits her throat and choking on blood, and she dies.
Yeah, but the difference is in the cave, it kind of went on forever. Here, we don't know if it goes on forever. I'm guessing he probably is just
that essentially being what her domain was during the apocalypse, as they call it.
Which is very important. Should we get to what we think about this episode then?
I was going to say, that's basically where the episode does end there. So
on the topic of domains, we get an idea of what a domain can look like. The fact that people still remember what domains they're in, and now it's common...
Even afterwards.
Yeah, it's common to be asked about it. At least if you have a government job.
Government.
Yeah.
What's left of it. Also, I don't know if we exactly mentioned it, but it's been 5 years since said apocalypse. And they still haven't really rebuilt, and they're still having to protect from creatures. And again, like I stated back in the when I did the trailer in the first episode of the series, there's still tape recorders that pop up randomly. Not even before the archivist and Sam sort of popped out of nowhere. Square Mile. Yes. I have a little theory that because it's a certain place. We don't get to know much about it, but, Captain Georgie Barker, our beloved, basically says that, people don't really come from there. That could have been the only place you could have came from, which is why I didn't trust you. But, humans don't come from the Square Mile, which I have a little theory that it's sort of just some sort of could be potentially another tear or just some really dense area of the domains that are just left there. And that's where just more creatures, more entities just come from, I suppose.
It's like a Minecraft spawn point.
Yeah. That, or I'm just not thinking about it. Perhaps wherever this Square Mile is, because the Square Mile is not a big... they call it the Square Mile. I would assume it's the size of a square mile, which, is about a mile big.
Wow, really?
I know, right? But, now that I'm just thinking about it, theory crafting in my head here.
Okay.
London's a few more than than 1 square mile.
No, definitely not.
Definitely not. What if this Square Mile is exactly where the Panopticon is?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised either, but also, the whole thing with, the finale of Archives was John basically killing himself and Jonah, and accidentally Martin, in order to prevent the fears from being spread out into the universe.
Yes.
Right? And that failed, kind of, maybe? We don't really know.
The whole world isn't completely destroyed, which is kind of a clue that it might have sort of worked.
might have sort of worked, but also potentially, again, we see this archivist being is from the Protocol universe. So something definitely got fucked up there a little in trying to save the world and also get rid of the fears.
You mentioned earlier how that the places that are still dangerous to go could possibly be old ritual sites.
Yes, because she mentions that, you know, there are places in the world after the post change that, you know, didn't revert back, really, London being one of those, you know, bad places, but, potentially other ritual sites, like the Antarctic place, where the Dark Sphere thing was. The library, that could also be the library where Gertrude found gorilla skin, I believe that's where that is. Or that was where, like, the first archivists were, or something like that. I don't remember much about the library. Or the big temple library thing. I forget what it is.
Okay.
But anyways, the square mile, back to that. You know, while I'm theory crafting in my head here, what if that is exactly where the Institute is? The Panopticon, Millbank Prison. What if the square mile is exactly there? And if it was there that, you know, John sort of saved the world, and also, you know, the entities were just kind of like into other universes, what if, like, it's just all a big conglomerate of all the fears just sort of fucked up and messing around with each other, and then, you know, occasionally they'll just pop out some sort of weird creature.
Yeah,
and that's
I'd
what
be
the square
surprised.
mile
I'm
is.
wondering how many, because Sam is definitely humanoid. He's human.
He's human.
So I'm wondering how many creatures come out that are humanoid, and if this is a very regular occurrence.
Yeah, because the fact that she even has to be like, "Are you human?" to someone who appears human is weird. But also, I could also see that being of like, oh, it's just some cultist guy who's like, I really like flesh.
Oh yeah, they mentioned that earlier too, that people kept trying to go back, which could be
people trying to get into these weird exclusion zones.
Possibly
cult members trying to...
Cult members, maybe almost avatars.
Almost avatar, yeah. Because I wouldn't imagine there would be like full-fledged avatars.
No.
Probably not in this little feared world. Not so feared world.
I think that's basically it.
Basically it.
Yeah. We'll hopefully get to see what the OAR is doing.
In the meanwhile.
Yeah. Poor Alice.
Poor Alice.
Yeah. Hopefully we get to see the Admiral.
The Admiral. Both Admirals,
Both
maybe.
Admirals.
The
Hopefully
original Admiral. OG Admiral.
Oh, the outro. As is custom with YouTube videos, please consider below, for the health and safety of our nation, liking this, subscribing, I think that's the word, and leave a comment. I would really like to read your comments. I will read your comments. Leave a comment. Please. A comment. For me. Goodbye.
That was good.
Maybe that's the transatlantic accent.
Comment. Leave a comment. I'll read your comments.